The ruins stood silent under the pale alien moon. Broken stones lay scattered, half buried in the dust of centuries. The air was heavy, and even the wind refused to whistle through the jagged walls. Ethan, the human explorer, tightened the strap of his pack and wiped the sweat from his brow. He had been warned not to enter this part of the ruins, but curiosity burned inside him, stronger than fear. He heard it again. That faint sound, a whispering echo that did not belong to wind or animals. At first he thought it might be rats or some hidden machine still running after all these years. But the sound had rhythm, almost like words, almost like a call. His flashlight beam swept across cracked pillars, each carved with strange symbols he could not read. Some seemed to glow faintly as he passed, as if they were watching him. The locals had spoken of a mistress, the keeper of forbidden places. They said her wrath would fall upon anyone foolish enough to step into the sacred orifice of her temple. Ethan laughed at the thought when he first heard it, dismissing it as superstition. But now, standing in the dark ruins, with the whispers growing louder, his laughter felt hollow. His boots crunched against gravel as he followed the sound deeper. Finally, he reached a wall that looked different from the others. It was smooth, untouched by time, and a faint line curved along its center like a sealed hatch. The whispering grew clearer, and his heart pounded. It was not rats. It was not wind. Something was behind that wall. He placed his hand against the cold surface. At his touch, the lines flared with blue light, racing across the stone like living fire. With a deep rumble, the wall shifted, splitting open to reveal a dark passage. Ethan stepped back, his instincts screaming at him to run, but his curiosity anchored his feet. The passage breathed a strange air, cool and sharp, carrying the scent of metal and something ancient. He raised his flashlight, the beam stretching into the gloom. Steps led downward, deeper into the earth. He swallowed hard, muttering to himself that he should turn around, yet his legs moved. On their own, each step echoing like thunder in the silence. The whispers became voices, clear now, though in no tongue he knew. Symbols glowed faintly on the walls, pulsing like veins. He felt as if he were inside the body of something alive. Finally, he entered a chamber, vast and circular, the ceiling lost in darkness. At its center stood a pillar covered in glowing runes. The pillar hummed softly, vibrating the air. Ethan approached, his breath quick and shallow. When he reached out, the runes flared brighter. A voice boomed, no longer a whisper, but a thunderous roar. "Insolent human, you have entered the forbidden orifice." Ethan stumbled back, dropping his flashlight. The light rolled across the floor, shadows dancing wildly. The chamber shook as if anger itself had taken form. A figure materialized from the shadows, a boyo, tall alien woman cloaked in black and silver. Her eyes burned like molten fire and her voice struck like a whip. "You defile what was never meant for your kind," she thundered. "This place belongs to the Mistress, and you have dared to enter without permission." Ethan's throat dried, his words stuck, but still he managed to whisper, "I didn't mean to. I only followed the sound." The Mistress raised her hand and energy crackled around her fingers. The chamber responded to her anger, walls trembling, the runes flashing blood red. Guards appeared, stepping from unseen doors, their weapons gleaming. With strange light they surrounded Ethan, their insect-like helmets hiding their faces. The Mistress pointed at him, her voice sharp as a blade. "Take him. He must be punished for this insult." But then, something happened. The pillar at the center of the chamber glowed fiercely, sending streams of blue light toward Ethan. The guards staggered, their weapons faltering. The Mistress froze, her eyes narrowing in disbelief. The chamber's power had chosen to protect the human. Ethan stood bathed in the glow, his fear giving way to confusion. He looked at his hands, glowing faintly with the same light. The Mistress's voice dropped, low and dangerous. "This is impossible. The chamber accepts you." Her anger twisted into something else. Fear. The guards hesitated, unsure whether to obey her or the will of the chamber. The Mistress stepped closer, her fiery eyes locked on Ethan. "You are not meant to be here, human," she hissed, "and yet the sacred place defends you. Why?" The silence that followed was heavy, pressing against every stone. Ethan's chest rose and fell, his mind spinning with questions. He had not come to claim anything, yet something in this chamber had claimed him. The mistress turned sharply, her cloak swirling like smoke. "This is not over," she declared, her voice echoing like thunder. The chamber dimmed, the runes fading back to faint glow. The guards melted back into the shadows, vanishing through hidden doors. Ethan stood alone again, trembling but alive. He realized he had stepped into something far bigger than himself. The forbidden chamber had opened for him, and nothing would ever be the same. The silence of the chamber did not last long. Ethan stood frozen, his chest still glowing faintly with the strange blue light. The runes on the walls pulsed like a heartbeat, as if the place itself was alive. Then came the sharp sound of metal, striking stone, heavy doors slamming open behind him. The mistress returned, her cloak dragging across the floor, her fiery eyes locked on him like blades. "You dare still stand, insolent human?" Her voice thundered, shaking the chamber itself. "You were chosen by accident, nothing more, and I will see this error erased." Behind her, the alien guards reappeared, their insect-like armor gleaming, weapons aimed. Ethan's instincts told him to run, but his legs would not move. The chamber's energy still lingered in him, anchoring him in place. The mistress raised her hand, and a swirl of crimson energy spun into existence. It hissed like fire, wrapping around her palm like a living snake. "You think the chamber protects you," she said, her voice low and cold. "But its power bends to my will, and I will burn you until nothing remains." Her words struck harder than the guards' weapons. Filled with hatred and fear, Ethan forced his trembling lips to speak. "I didn't come here to defile anything." His voice echoed weakly against the ancient stones. "I heard the sound. I followed it, that's all. I don't even know what this place is." The mistress's laughter rang sharp and cruel, filling the chamber with bitterness. "You think ignorance will save you, human? This is no playground, this is sacred." She gestured sharply, and the guards stepped forward, their weapons glowing with green light. One guard thrust his spear toward Ethan, but the moment the tip touched him, blue sparks exploded outward. The guard was thrown back against the wall, his armor scorched. The mistress's eyes widened, then narrowed with fury. "The chamber rejects even my soldiers for your sake? Impossible," she growled. Ethan stumbled backward, his hands glowing brighter now. "I don't know what's happening," he whispered, "but I didn't ask for this." The mistress's cloak whipped as she marched forward, her presence suffocating. Her voice dropped to a whisper that carried more power than a shout. "Do you know what you have touched, human? Do you know what you've awakened?" Ethan shook his head quickly, sweat dripping down his brow. Her eyes flared with fire, and she raised her crimson energy higher. "You've awakened judgment," she spat, "and I am its hand." The chamber trembled as the runes shifted from blue to red, responding to her anger. But still a faint circle of blue light remained around Ethan, a shield the mistress could not break. The guards began to murmur in their alien tongue, their voices uneasy. Some hesitated to attack again, fearing the wrath of the chamber more than the wrath of their mistress. She turned on them, her voice slicing through the air like a whip. "Cowards, obey me or be destroyed yourselves." The guards stiffened, their weapons raised once more. Ethan knew he could not fight them. He had no weapon, no armor, nothing but fear. Yet the chamber's hum filled his veins, urging him to stand when the guards moved. The floor beneath them cracked with light. Blue arcs leapt upward, tossing them aside like broken toys. The mistress staggered back, stunned for the first time. Her voice lost some of its thunder, replaced with disbelief. "This cannot be," she whispered more to herself than to him. "No human has ever been chosen. No human has ever survived the chamber." She looked at Ethan, her rage mixing with something else. Doubt. Her claws clenched, but her gaze lingered as if weighing fate itself. Ethan took a deep breath, his fear trembling into defiance. "I don't know why this place protects me, but maybe you should ask why," he said. His voice, though quiet, carried in the heavy silence. The mistress snarled. But for the first time her fire dimmed slightly. Her guards lay scattered, the chamber glowed with blue light, and she stood alone against him, "This is not finished," she hissed, her eyes burning once more. "You will not escape punishment, human. You will face the trial of purity." Her words rang like a death sentence, but also like a challenge. The runes above shifted, forming strange patterns Ethan could not understand. The chamber groaned as if alive, sealing the vow of her threat. The guards rose slowly, battered but alive, keeping their distance from Ethan now. The mistress pointed toward the heavy doors, her voice sharp as iron. "Bind him. Drag him from this place and prepare the trial." Two guards hesitated, then reluctantly stepped forward, but the blue light pulsed again, protecting him from their touch. The mistress's face twisted in rage, but she forced her voice calm. "Very well, insolent one, walk on your own. The chamber may protect you here, but not forever." Her eyes burned with cold certainty. "You will learn the wrath of the mistress, and you will not survive it." The chamber darkened, its blue glow fading as if even it feared what was to come. Ethan followed as the guards surrounded him, his legs heavy with dread. He did not understand this trial of purity, nor why the chamber had chosen him. But he knew one thing. His life was no longer his own. The mistress had marked him, and fate itself had bound him to the forbidden chamber. And as the doors slammed shut behind him, Ethan realized this was only the beginning. The stone corridors echoed with Ethan's footsteps as the guards forced him forward. Their weapons glowed faintly, though none dared touch him again. The mistress walked ahead, her cloak dragging like a shadow across the floor. Every turn in the ruins felt like a throat closing around him, tighter, darker, heavier. And still, the whispers of the chamber seemed to follow, faint but unbroken. They arrived at another hall, long and vast, lined with towering statues. Each statue carried alien weapons, their faces chiseled into masks of judgment. Ethan slowed, staring at them, but the guard shoved him with a growl. The mistress stopped at the end of the hall where an enormous gate stood. Its surface was flawless and black, like a mirror made of stone. "This is the sealed gate," the mistress said coldly, her voice echoing. "No living creature may open it, not even I. It is the last defense of the sacred." She turned her fiery eyes to Ethan, her lips curling with venom. "But the chamber reacted to you, insolent human. Let us see if it reacts here too." The guards murmured uneasily, shifting in their armor. Ethan stared at the gate, his chest tightening. The runes carved faintly along its edges pulsed once, as if aware of him. He shook his head slowly. "I don't want to open anything. I didn't come here for this," the mistress hissed, stepping closer, her cloak brushing his arm like cold smoke. "You came, you entered, and now you are bound. The gate will answer to you, or it will consume you." Her command was final, and the guards stepped back, leaving him before the giant wall. Ethan raised a trembling hand, his skin still faintly glowing with blue light. The moment his palm touched the gate, the air shifted. The black stone rippled like water struck by a stone. Then cracks of light began to spread outward, bright and alive. The guards gasped, some dropping to their knees in terror. The mistress's eyes widened, rage and fear battling within them. The gate roared like thunder, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Runes exploded with blue fire, racing across the hall, and in the center of the gate, a symbol appeared, one none of them had ever seen. Ethan staggered back, clutching his chest. His heartbeat throbbed in rhythm with the glowing gate, each pulse stronger than the last. The mistress stepped forward, her voice sharp as a blade. "Enough! Seal it!" she screamed, raising her hand. Crimson energy burst from her palm, striking the gate like a storm. But the blue fire fought back, swallowing her power. The energy spread, reaching toward Ethan like a living hand. It wrapped around him, not hurting, but holding. He felt warmth, clarity, as if the ruins themselves whispered to his mind. Fragments of images flashed. Creatures not human, not alien. Builders of this place long vanished. The mistress staggered, her power fading against the unstoppable glow. "This should not be possible," she growled, her voice trembling for the first time. "No human should command the sealed gate." Ethan dropped to his knees, his breath ragged. The visions faded, but the knowledge remained. This gate had been waiting for him. The glow dimmed suddenly, The gate sealed again with a heavy thud. Its light retreated, leaving only faint cracks along its surface. The mistress's fury returned stronger than ever. "You are cursed, human, cursed to awaken what should never wake," she snarled. "You will not walk free from this. The council will decide your fate." The guards surrounded Ethan once more, though they dared not touch him. He was dragged away under their watchful eyes, deeper into the ruins. Ethan's mind spun with questions, with the weight of what he had seen. Why did the chamber and the gate respond to him? Why him out of all beings? And what was sealed behind that black mirror of stone? The mistress walked ahead, her shoulders rigid. She muttered words in her alien tongue, her anger unable to hide her fear. For centuries, the sealed gate had remained untouched, silent, eternal. But now, because of a single human, it had stirred. She could no longer deny it. Something ancient was choosing him. They emerged into a higher hall where alien symbols glowed like stars across the ceiling. A circle of robed elders stood waiting, their faces hidden by veils of silver. The mistress gestured sharply, her voice echoing with authority. "This is the intruder, the one who defiled the forbidden chamber and touched the sealed gate." The elders' murmurs filled the air like rustling leaves. One elder stepped forward, his voice deep and calm. "The sealed gate has slept for millennia, untouched by any hand, yet it answered his." Another elder hissed, "It cannot be allowed. This human is a threat to our order." But a third whispered, "Or perhaps he is the one foretold." The council's voices tangled together, doubt and fear mixing. The mistress slammed her staff against the floor, silencing them. "There is only one path," she declared, her eyes burning. "He will face the trial of purity, and if he survives, the truth will reveal itself." The elders exchanged wary glances, but none spoke against her. The decision was sealed, as final as the gate itself. Ethan's heart pounded, his mind heavy with dread. He had stumbled into this nightmare, by accident, yet now he was chained to its destiny. The whispers still lingered in his ears, promises or warnings he could not tell. He looked once more at the mistress, her gaze sharp and merciless, and he knew, whatever lay ahead in the trial, it would decide more than just his life. The chamber of the council fell silent after the mistress's decree. Ethan stood in the center, surrounded by robed elders whose glowing eyes burned through their veils. The guards kept their distance, remembering how the chamber's power had flung them aside before, but their weapons stayed ready, as if they feared the human might explode with power at any second. The mistress's voice cut through the silence, like a blade. "The trial of purity will begin at dawn," she said, her tone cold and unyielding. "If he is truly chosen, he will survive. If he is nothing but a thief of fate, the trial will cleanse him." Ethan's heart raced. He did not understand what the trial meant, but the way the elders nodded filled him with dread. One elder leaned on his staff and whispered in an ancient tongue, his voice trembling with both fear and reverence. Another muttered that the human might be the key to breaking the seal, or to dooming them all. The mistress gestured, and the guards escorted Ethan through winding corridors. The ruins seemed endless, twisting halls carved with glowing runes, whispering in voices that clawed at his mind. He was taken to a narrow cell with stone walls and a single beam of pale light. The guards left him there, their steps fading until only silence remained. Ethan sank against the cold wall, running a hand through his damp hair. "What have I gotten myself into?" he muttered, his voice shaking. He closed his eyes, but the moment he did, the whispers returned. Stronger this time, clearer, filling his thoughts with visions of strange beings, tall and luminous. They reached out as if calling him, their faces blurred yet familiar in some strange way. He gasped and snapped his eyes open, sweat dripping down his forehead. The night stretched endlessly, the whispers never letting him rest. By the time the guards returned, his body was weak, but his eyes burned with unease. They led him through torchlit tunnels until they reached a massive stone arena. The air was thick with tension, and the stands above were filled with alien watchers cloaked in shadow. Every eye followed him as though he were a criminal walking toward execution. At the center of the arena stood the mistress, tall and terrible. Her voice thundered, carried by the strange acoustics of the chamber. Behold the insolent human who defiled our sacred place. Today he faces the trial of purity. Her words were met with hisses and murmurs from the crowd. Ethan clenched. His fists, though his knees shook beneath him. The mistress raised her staff, and the ground split open with a rumble. From below, pillars rose, each holding a sphere of glowing light. Some pulsed with blue radiance, others with crimson fire. She turned her eyes to Ethan, her voice sharp with cruel delight. Touch the wrong one, and it will destroy you. Only the pure may find the path. Ethan stared at the lights, his breath shallow. They hummed like living hearts, each one pulling at him in a different way. The crowd leaned forward, their whispers like a storm. The mistress's smile widened as she pointed her staff. Choose, human, and let purity or death decide your fate. Ethan stepped forward slowly, the arena floor echoing beneath his boots. The spheres glowed brighter as he drew near, their pulses matching his racing heart. He reached toward one of the crimson spheres, then stopped as a sharp pain pierced his head. The whispers screamed in warning, and he stumbled back, clutching his skull. His eyes darted to the blue spheres, their glow softer, calmer, almost inviting. He reached toward one, and the air changed. The whispers quieted, replaced with a steady hum of peace. The crowd gasped as the blue light spread from the sphere into Ethan's hand. It wrapped around him like a cloak, filling his veins with warmth. The mistress's eyes narrowed, her lips curling in frustration. Do not think one choice spares. You! She spat, her staff striking the ground. The arena shifted again, the floor splitting to reveal rivers of fire and jagged stone. Bridges of narrow rock appeared, twisting like serpents. The mistress's voice rang out over the roar of the flames. Cross, human, and prove your purity, fall and be consumed. Ethan's chest tightened, the heat burning his skin as he stepped onto the first stone bridge. It shook beneath his weight, threatening to collapse. The whispers returned, guiding him, warning him of cracks and unstable steps. He moved slowly, sweat pouring down his face, the fire below licking at his feet. Behind him, the crowd jeered, shouting for him to fall. Halfway across, the bridge shuddered violently. A section broke away, crashing into the flames below. Ethan dropped to his knees, gripping the edge with shaking hands. His heart pounded as he pulled himself up, forcing his legs to move. The whispers urged him forward, their voices like threads, pulling him toward safety. Finally, he reached the end, collapsing onto solid ground. The crowd erupted in cries of disbelief, some enraged, others fearful. The mistress's face darkened with rage, though a flicker of unease crossed her eyes. She raised her staff once more, her voice cold as ice. He has survived the first stage, but the trial is not over. Ethan looked up at her, his chest heaving, his body trembling but alive. For the first time, he saw her not only as a figure of wrath, but as one of doubt. The whispers inside him grew stronger, whispering of truths still hidden. And he realized that the trial of purity was more than survival. It was a test that would reveal why the ruins had chosen him. The arena was silent. Ethan lay on the ground, gasping for breath, the heat of the fire still burning against his skin. The crowd stared, down at him, some in shock, others in anger. No one had expected a human to survive the first stage of the trial of purity. Yet there he was, alive, trembling, but not broken. The mistress's cloak whipped around her as she descended the stone steps. Her staff struck the ground with each step, echoing like thunder. Her fiery eyes never left Ethan, burning with hatred, but also with something deeper, fear. She stopped before him, her voice sharp and cold. You think endurance makes you pure, human? Purity is more than surviving fire. With a gesture of her hand, the arena floor shifted again. The flames vanished, swallowed by darkness. The watchers in the stands leaned forward, whispering, their voices like waves in the shadows. From the darkness rose a new vision, an illusion, yet real enough to touch. Walls of stone appeared, forming a labyrinth, endless and twisting. Ethan forced himself to stand, his legs shaking. The whispers in his head grew louder, guiding him forward. The mistress raised her staff, her voice echoing. Within the labyrinth lies the truth you seek, but truth cuts deeper than fire, and purity is measured by what you face, not by what you flee. Her eyes narrowed, cruel and calculating. Enter and be judged. Ethan stepped into the labyrinth, the walls towering high above him. The air was heavy, pressing down on his chest. Every corner looked the same, every turn a trap. He moved slowly, his fingers brushing the stone, the whispers his only guide. The voices urged him left, then right, their tone urgent, yet calm. At the first corner, a shadow stepped into view. It was a man, or at least it looked like one. The figure's face mirrored Ethan's own, twisted in anger, eyes burning with blame. "You abandoned us," the shadow hissed. "Your kind always destroys, always takes, always defiles." Ethan staggered back, his heart pounding. The shadow lunged, its hands reaching for his throat. Ethan raised his arms in defense, and blue sparks erupted from his palms. The shadow screamed, breaking apart into mist, but its words clung to Ethan's mind. Was this trial testing his purity or his guilt? He pressed on, his breath ragged, sweat dripping down his face. The whispers pushed him forward, but the labyrinth twisted tighter. Another figure appeared, this time a woman, her voice sharp with pain. "You failed us, Ethan," she cried. "You let us die. You turned your back when we needed you." Her eyes were empty, but her words pierced his chest like knives. "I don't know you," Ethan whispered, backing away. But the guilt inside him rose, unshakable. The woman's shadow reached for him, her touch cold as ice. Again the blue sparks flared, tearing her apart. Yet the pain in her voice remained, echoing in his ears. Deeper into the labyrinth he went, each step heavier than the last, each shadow harsher than before. They took the shapes of his fears, his failures, his doubts. Every illusion whispered the same message. Humans were not pure, humans were destroyers, and Ethan was no exception. At last, he reached the heart of the labyrinth. A chamber stood there, silent and vast, its floor covered in glowing runes. At its center hovered a sphere of pure blue light, pulsing like a heart. Ethan fell to his knees, his strength nearly gone. The whispers urged him forward, but the weight of guilt chained him down. The mistress's voice filled the chamber, though she was nowhere to be seen. "You see now, human, purity is not in your blood. It is not in your kind. You are tainted." Her laughter echoed cruelly, bouncing from wall to wall. Ethan clenched his fists, his body trembling with exhaustion and rage. "No," he whispered. "Purity is not about being perfect." He dragged himself forward, inch by inch, his hand stretched toward the glowing sphere. "I make mistakes. I fail. But I try again. That's what makes me human." The shadows rose once more, circling him, their voices screaming. But the whispers inside him grew louder, drowning them out. When his fingers touched the sphere, the labyrinth shook. Light burst outward, tearing the shadows apart. Visions filled Ethan's mind, not of guilt, but of history. He saw the builders of the ruins, tall, luminous beings, working beside early humans, not enemies, but allies, united by a bond long forgotten. The mistress's voice faltered, her certainty cracking. This cannot be," she gasped, her fiery eyes widening as she appeared at the chamber's edge. The sphere's light spread to Ethan, wrapping him in warmth and power. The whispers became clear words at last. "You are chosen not for purity of blood, but purity of will." Ethan rose, his body glowing with the same blue light as the sphere. The labyrinth dissolved, fading back into the arena. The watchers gasped as they saw him standing tall. The mistress stepped back, her cloak trembling, her voice uncertain for the first time. "The chamber's truth has spoken, but I do not accept it." The crowd erupted in chaos, some shouting for Ethan's death, others whispering that prophecy had awakened. Ethan stood firm, his chest heaving, his eyes burning with new clarity. He did not fully understand what he had seen, but he knew this. The ruins were never meant to be locked away in fear. They were meant to be shared, and somehow, he was the key to unlocking them. The arena still trembled with the aftershock of the labyrinth's collapse. Ethan stood in the center, bathed in blue light, the whispers now calm inside his mind. The watchers filled the stands with restless noise, half in awe, half in terror. The elders whispered furiously among themselves, their silver veils shimmering as they argued, and the mistress, towering above them all, gripped her staff so tightly the stone cracked beneath it. She descended slowly, her eyes locked on Ethan. Her fiery gaze no longer carried only rage. It carried conflict. She had seen the truth of the chamber. She had seen the light choose him. And though every bone in her body wanted to deny it, the ruins did not lie. She stopped just a few steps away, her cloak rippling like a storm. "You are not worthy," she hissed, her voice sharp but unsteady. "The chamber, the labyrinth, they have been deceived. They should never have accepted a human." Ethan's body shook from exhaustion, yet he lifted his head, his voice steady. "Maybe they didn't accept me because I'm strong. Maybe they accepted me because I keep standing even when I fall." His words carried no arrogance, only raw truth. The mistress raised her staff, crimson fire swirling around her palm. "I could end you now, before you bring ruin to us all," she declared. Her power flared, casting long shadows across the arena floor. The crowd gasped, some cheering for his death, others crying out in warning. But Ethan did not move. He only met her eyes with calm defiance. At that moment, the blue light around him pulsed stronger. The staff in her hand trembled, the crimson fire struggling against the glow. The mistress's jaw clenched, her heart torn between duty and fear. She had been raised to guard the sacred, to destroy intruders. But now, the ruins themselves fought against her own command. The elders stepped forward, their voices weaving into the storm. "End him before he awakens more power," one hissed. "He is the one from the prophecy. Let him live." Another countered. "He is both danger and salvation," a third whispered, trembling. The mistress silenced them with a single glare, but their voices lingered in her mind. Ethan staggered, his strength fading, yet his voice carried clearly. "You don't have to believe me, but the ruins do, and they're older than you, older than your council." The blue light wrapped tighter around him, as if the ruins themselves answered. The mistress's fire dimmed, her staff lowering despite her will. For the first time, her expression cracked. Uncertainty replacing fury, she turned sharply, her cloak snapping like thunder. "This is not over," she said, her voice echoing through the arena. "The trial proves nothing but survival. It does not make him one of us." The elders muttered, the crowd roared, and the guards stepped uneasily. But no one dared move. Against Ethan, while the blue light surrounded him, the mistress walked to the council's platform, her back rigid. She raised her voice above the chaos. "By ancient law, the trial is complete. He has survived. Therefore he lives." Gasps filled the stands, some in rage, others in relief. Her words carried finality, yet her eyes burned with storm. Later, in the dim corridors of the ruins, the mistress walked alone. Her mind was a battlefield, torn between hatred and truth. She saw again the visions from the labyrinth, the builders standing beside humans. The ruins had chosen him, but why him, why now? Her heart clenched with anger, but deep inside fear whispered louder. Meanwhile, Ethan was taken to a chamber guarded by stone sentinels. He collapsed on the floor, too weak to stand. The whispers inside him calmed, fading into silence, leaving him in uneasy peace. But their last words echoed still, purity of will, not of blood. He clenched his fists, knowing the fight was far from over. The mistress appeared at the chamber's doorway, her cloak trailing behind her. Her eyes studied him, sharp and unblinking. "You have survived what no outsider ever has," she said softly, though her tone carried steel. "Do not mistake survival for acceptance, human. You are still a threat to my people." Ethan lifted his head, his voice raw but firm. "I never wanted to be your enemy, but if I am chosen, then maybe it's because your people and mine aren't meant to be enemies." The mistress's lips tightened, her eyes flickering with something unreadable. For a moment, silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Then she turned sharply, her voice clipped. "Rest while you can. Tomorrow the council will decide what to do with you." When she left, her cloak fading into the darkness, Ethan leaned back against the cold wall. He knew the mistress's choice was not final yet. Her heart wavered between killing him and accepting the truth, and as he closed his eyes, he understood. Her choice would not just decide his fate, it would decide the future of both their worlds. And the ruins were waiting for her answer as much as for his. The ruins were restless that night. Whispers crawled through the stone halls like wind, carrying secrets too heavy for silence. The elders gathered in their silver veils, voices hushed but sharp as knives. Some demanded the humans' death. Others whispered that prophecy had awakened, but no one spoke louder than the mistress, who stood at the center, torn between duty and truth. Her staff rested against the floor, her fingers tightening and loosening as if fighting her own thoughts. She remembered the fire of the trial, the collapse of the labyrinth, the impossible glow that surrounded the human. Every moment told her one truth, that the ruins themselves had accepted him, and yet her heart rebelled, screaming that no human should ever hold power in their sacred place. Her voice finally broke through the council's storm, calm but firm. "The chamber has spoken," she said, her fiery eyes dim but steady. "The gate has stirred. The labyrinth has revealed visions, and the human has survived." Her words silenced the council, the echoes heavy as stone. "We may deny him, we may kill him, but the ruins will not forget what they chose." The elders shifted uneasily, their whispers fading, their eyes watching her closely. Ethan, still weak from the trial, was brought before them once more. He looked worn, his face pale, but his eyes carried a strange fire of their own. The mistress studied him in silence, searching for weakness, for arrogance, for deception. But she found none. Only a tired defiance. A man who did not understand why he had been chosen, yet refused to bow finally. She raised her staff, her voice echoing through the hall. "Human, the ruins chose you, but choice does not mean belonging," she declared. "Tell us, what will you do with the power they gave you? Why should we let you live?" The hall grew quiet, every eye fixed on Ethan. His chest rose and fell as he searched for words, his voice rough but clear. "I don't want power. I never came here for that. I only want to live, to understand why this place called me." He stepped forward, his legs trembling but steady. "Maybe the ruins chose me because I'm human, because I fall and I fail, but I still get back up." His words echoed, simple but heavy. The crowd shifted, murmurs rippling like water through the hall. The mistress's eyes narrowed, her fire dimming into something unreadable. She lifted her staff, and for a long moment, Ethan thought she would strike him down, but instead she lowered it slowly, her voice low. "Perhaps that is the purity the ruins seek, not perfection, but persistence." Gasps filled the chamber, some in outrage, others in wonder. The elders bent their heads, unable to deny what they had seen. The mistress turned to the watchers above, her cloak flaring as she raised her hand. "By the will of the ruins, by the survival of the trial, this human is no longer an intruder," she declared. "He is chosen, and though I do not yet trust him, I will not defy the sacred." Her words struck like lightning, shaking the hall. The crowd roared, some with fury, others with awe. Ethan stood stunned, the weight of her words crashing down on him. He was not an enemy now, but not yet an ally, something in between. The mistress stepped closer, her eyes blazing. "Know this, human. Your survival ties you to me now. My choice binds us. Your life is no longer your own." Ethan swallowed hard, but he did not look away. In that moment something shifted. The blue light pulsed faintly between them, not hostile, but binding. The ruins themselves seemed to approve, the runes glowing softly across the walls. The mistress's jaw tightened, her pride fighting her acceptance. But she knew the truth. Her fate and his were now bound together. Later, as the council dispersed and the crowd faded, Ethan was left in a quiet chamber. The mistress entered, her steps slow, her eyes heavy with thought. She looked at him no longer with pure hatred but with a strange, reluctant respect. "You should not be alive," she said softly, her voice lacking its usual venom. "And yet, here you are, and I cannot change that." Ethan gave a faint smile, though exhaustion weighed him down. "Maybe that's the point," he whispered. "Maybe neither of us can change what the ruins want." The mistress's lips pressed into a thin line, but she did not argue. For the first time, silence stretched between them without hostility. A silence that carried not anger but possibility. She turned to leave but paused at the doorway, her voice low and steady. "You are not one of us, human, but you are no longer nothing. The ruins have chosen you, and so by law I must walk beside you." Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "But remember this. If you betray what you've been given, I will be the one to end you." Her cloak swept away, leaving her words like chains in the air. Ethan leaned back, his chest rising slowly. He had survived the forbidden chamber, the sealed gate, the trial of purity, and now, against all odds, the mistress herself had acknowledged him, not as friend, not as foe, but as something new, and, deep inside, the ruins whispered one final truth. This was only the beginning of their bond.